I'm currently in the home of Brother Dillard Rowe, one of the 21 charter members of the Gamma Pi chapter. Greetings, Brother Rowe.
Greetings to you, Brother Kelly. Pleased to meet you, and welcome to my home.
Thank you. You know, we talked about the birth of the chapter, and we've seen how it has grown. We saw it start from 21 charter members coming together to meet, and now we've gotten to a point where we are 200 active members, as well as we have hundreds of sons of Gamma Pi who have been initiated by way of Gamma Pi chapter. How do you feel about this accolade of starting from just 21 charter members and your wives to becoming one of actually the second largest chapter in the 2nd district?
Well, first of all, no one had that type of vision for the chapter. You know, I think some of the largest chapters at the time was 50 or 60 members. We were just happy to reach somewhere around 50. You know, we had great ambitions and at the time, and one of the great ambitions was at the time was to secure our fraternity house. And we went through that, and we went so far in 86 to purchase some land. And I understand in later years they sold the land. And that's been one of my big disappointment with the chapter. But nobody had the vision of the chapter growing to 200-300 people with the chapter. And with growth comes problems. And right now, one of the big problems is, since we don't have a Omega facility of our own, is a meeting facility. And that is one of the problems today. And it will be a problem until we come together to get a facility.
So that's going to be one of the biggest goals the charter members will hope to see in their lifetime, is that we secure a center, a permanent center.
A permanent center that can accommodate
the size of our new chapter.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's astounding. Coming from Seed Pleasant, we know that this was not your genesis of where you grew up. Where did you actually grow up?
I grew up in the world's greatest bright leaf tobacco market town, Wilson, North Carolina. I graduated from high school in Wilson, and shortly after that, I went into the United States Air Force. I spent 3 years and 9 months in the Air Force, and I got out early in order to start my higher education at North Carolina Central in September the 12th of 1962. I had to go through a lengthy process in order to get the early out. You have to go through quite a bit of paperwork and so forth. But the assistant commander was a great protege of mine, and he gave me all of the basic steps of what I needed to go through in order to qualify to get the early out.
Yes.
So that was great moments then.
Okay. So after going to Central and graduating from Central, my understanding is that you were initiated in Rowe.
That is correct.
Okay. And tell me something about your experience being in Omega these number of years, and what was your experience, and what do you love about Omega while you were spending your time in Rowe?
Well, coming through Miro, I was everybody's a neophyte, pledgee. We had some great brothers, and one of the great things with the line, our line chief, president, whatever you want to refer to him, was one of the great guys that you ever meet if you get a chance to meet him. A young man by the name of Maurice Clark. Maurice was about 6'4", 240. He was a Navy pilot. And he was from Boston, Massachusetts. And he later married, he was then married to one of the early brothers of the fraternity. And he married his daughter. But Brother Clark went to the Naval Academy. He went to private school, then he went to the Naval Academy. So truth of the matter is, he didn't really know anything about blacks. And being the educational guy that he was, and he was the president, as everybody know, when you're online, you can't do anything right.
That's right.
So it was amazing how when the brothers, big brothers, tell you that something was wrong, my line brother Moore, he wanted to know what was it that we did wrong.
Right.
And it was hard to convince Brother Maurice that you can do no right. Right. So that was amazing, and we had a great line and so forth. And that was great. And one of the things that we had to do while I was online was we had a basketball game against the big brothers. And the big brothers, they was intent on winning. I said, no, we're going all out. We're going to win the game.
Which was a bad move on your part.
No, that was a good move.
Oh, really?
That was a good move, because since you can't do anything right, you're not going to give them an excuse to call you a loser.
Right.
So we went out and we played, and we put a whooping on them.
Oh.
And that was great. And I think that particular game kind of changed a lot of their attitudes. Right. One thing it took away their firepower. They couldn't call us losers. Right. So that was one of the most memorial things about the line.
The 70s were a different time, as you know, compared to right now. I actually probably was around maybe in my younger days, like 10 or so, during the 70s. But I do remember the atmosphere and the way things were. So let me ask you this. What was your reason for choosing Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated versus all the other fraternities that you had a choice to make?
Well, let me give you some background on that. Well, being a country boy, I always went to city schools. But during that time, everything in the 50s, everything was segregated. And you was kind of singled out, segregated by the teachers. Now, I know all of them was black. But being poor and a country boy, you're not privileged to a lot of the meetings that other people were. And I didn't find out these meetings until I was in grad school. And but I had two homeboys that I graduated from high school with that already had gone to Central. Brother Tim McIntosh and Brother Joe Williams.
Which are also charter members.
Yes. Okay. Well, Brother Williams was a year ahead of me at Central because, see, Brother Williams went to the Army and his tour was 3 years and so forth. But then when I decided to pledge to my closest friends at work were Omega men. And along with my closest friend, one of my closest friends now, Brother Mayor White, also worked at the agency for a while, you know. And but that kind of swayed me since I already knew people in there. And you could see the work that was going on and so forth. And again, in the 70s, there was a lot, it was a different world than what we have today. Now, you could actually see the work that was going on. And when I first came into the fraternity, after being a charter member, one of the things we used to do was put together food baskets for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, most of us didn't live in the poor neighborhoods per se. So we didn't really have access to the people that needed the baskets and so forth. So we was told to go through social services. We went through social service and they gave us a list. And we put together these baskets and we went to deliver them. And I know one occasion we went to deliver a food basket in the Mayfield area of Northeast Washington. North Mayfield area is after you go under the underpass at Benning Road. Mayfield is to the left of 295 going north. And we went and we knocked on the door. And we heard the lady, heard some guy say, "There's somebody at the door." They said, "Well, get it." So we open the door. We take these baskets in, and she said, "Just have them to put it on the table." And we go in and hear 5 guys sitting around the table playing cards. But as we go through the living room, there's a big colored TV sitting in the corner. And we put the food in and we left. But then after that, we thought about it. Something's wrong with this picture. At that time, truthfully, we didn't live in the poor neighborhood. But most of us didn't have big TV, 24, 32-inch television, color television, sitting in the corner. But while we out here putting together baskets, taking to people like this, it's like we are being used. And I think that was one of the steps that kind of ended up putting together the baskets and so forth. And then another time, we put together some baskets, and this is since I've been living in Fort Washington, and I had to deliver some over in neighborhood near Friendly High School. Well, the people was well deserving of the basket. But I knew better than to go to a house with a single mother with 2 kids
Correct.
by myself.
Correct.
So I told my oldest daughter, I said, babe, you have to go with me.
Right.
And when I went, the lady had 2 of the nicest kids
Right.
that you could ever meet. Everything was yes, sir, no, sir, and sir, and mister.
Yes.
And the only reason she was home is because she was sick, because she was taking classes at night.
Okay.
And that was one of the most joyous moments in delivering baskets for Christmas and and Thanksgiving.
One of the things I know about Gamma Pi is that they are very thoroughly immersed in serving the community of Prince George's County, and I can see why we are this way because of your early starts as charter members. You started right off the beginning, serving the community with the baskets, and actually this is something we still do. We call it passing out turkeys during Thanksgiving, but that theme is still there. And one of the things I thought was interesting that you mentioned, Brother McIntosh and Brother Williams, how much did you know of them? You mentioned that they were already Omega Men or in the process of becoming Omega Men. And it's interesting you also mentioned Mel White, who's also a stellar brother in the chapter. So it seems that you were surrounded around a lot of men of Omega that had an influence on you, that kind of channeled your thoughts of this is where I want to go, in terms of different fraternities that were already available, like the Kappas and Alphas and whatever fraternity you could have went to. But it looks like Omega had a heavy influence on you because you mentioned these men. So what was your relationship like with McIntosh and Brother Williams at that time at Central?
Well, the truth of the matter is, Brother McIntosh graduated from Central in '62.
Mm-hmm.
Joe was a sophomore, '62, and I was an incoming freshman.
Okay.
But I knew Tim and Joe well.
Mm-hmm.
We graduated from high school together.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and Tim didn't play much of it, but Joe and I played a lot of softball together in high school. And when I, first came to Washington, Joe worked for an organization I think they referred to as ETSO. Mm-hmm. And he was playing on the softball team.
Right.
And he talked to me, and I joined the team.
Right.
I wasn't with Elsa, but I joined the team. And we used to play in a league, softball league, up at 16th and Kennedy. Mm-hmm. And we had some great moments up there. Right. And we practiced at a park over on Stephen Drive. Okay. And Northwest Washington.
Wow.
And I knew Joe and Tim well. And a matter of fact, Joe and I went to grad school together. Mm-hmm. And we worked every day. And at night, we went to class 2 nights a week. Mm-hmm. And we went to the campus 4 nights a week because we had to go to the library. And one of the things Joe and I did, we would take these readings and we would go and Xerox them. And I still remember at the time, Xeroxing a copy was 10 cents a sheet.
Right.
And what Joe and I would do, we'd get these readings and we'd make a copy. Mm-hmm. And then we'd take it to work. The first thing the next morning, we'd go and make 2 copies. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we both have the copies, mm-hmm. personal copies to keep. Right. And that's the way we did a lot of our studying and so forth. Right. But we went through these 2 years of grad school together. Okay. We graduated together from Catholic University.
Nice. It's interesting you mentioned Kennedy. I actually lived on Kennedy as a child. So I'm very familiar with that ballpark, that area that you guys used to play baseball on. And so it's interesting in full circle that you speak about the members in this way. So let me ask you this. You guys got together, 21 charter members, and you sought to have this charter. And at that time, you know, the history of Gamma Pi has always been, you guys wanted a place to spend time together as a family. Most of you were married, from what I understood.
Yes.
And so you had different events. You had like the Easter hunt, you had the galas and so forth and so on. What were some of your memorable days in that first few years of Gamma Pi chapter when you guys first started the chapter?
Well, it was very exciting. One of the things we got, because all of us were much younger then, we got the wives involved, and it was just amazing to bring the families together with the Easter egg hunts. We kind of relied on the wives. We supported them and so forth for the things, activities for the kids.
Right.
And we would do that, and then during the summer, I think it was in June, we would have this great picnic in Watkins Park. And we had this fantastic committee. And I'll never forget the late Brother Walker, Claudius Walker. He lived in Bowie at the time. He would go to the park to reserve the space, because you could not reserve the space on the couch. It's first come, first served. So he would map out. But the committee had the responsibility of picking up the food, taking it to the park, cooking, and so forth. And at the time, I had a van. And my responsibility was to pick up the meats and so forth. And we bought most of the meats from Nick's in Clinton at the time, and B.J. Miller's.
Right.
You know. And we'd go out there, and everybody just pitched in and worked together, the committee. And for the most part, Brother Dave Washington was chairman of the committee. And that went great. And each brother could invite one other couple and their kids. You know, everything was about the kids, you know. And that went well. And along the way, after we started bringing new brothers into the chapter, instead of them sticking to the norm, they would print flyers and put on people's windshield the cues of having a picnic in the park.
Right.
And so a lot of times, if you wasn't there a half an hour before it was supposed to start,
Right.
the people that were supposed to be there, they were running out of food.
Wow.
You know, and we kind of wanted to disband that, and then we had a boss that came in, and he appointed a new chairman of the committee, and he appointed a chairman of the committee that wasn't even on the committee, with the expectation that the committee would teach him.
Right.
We took it as a slap in the face. And if you want to change committee, you should at least consult and get somebody that's all been through the mill working on this. You go and get somebody new to, well, since you got a new chairman, you got to get a new committee. And it went downhill after that.
So that's one of the actual events that kind of just, dissipated away.
Right.
Well, one of the staples that I do recall is that we do have now is, and you may recognize this name, it's called Project Enrich, and it was with Roland Bird. Why don't you tell me something about Roland Bird?
Roland Bird was one of the mainstays on my neophyte line.
Right.
Brother Bird was, I don't know why he didn't pledge when he was in college. That wasn't important to us, we was just on the concern of Bird. Brother Bird was really, I'm going to say, Brother Bird was the glue that really kept the line together. And because he knew more about the fraternity, because he had been involved with this. And sometimes we had to call him down. But Bird was a dynamite friend and so forth, and a tremendous leader and so forth. Now, Brother Bird, like I said, I was one of the few people at the time that had a home and a basement. And we would meet at my house. And a lot of time, when I got home from class, they would already be there.
Right.
And so forth. And there was 3 of us from this area. Me, Brother Bird, and the late Brother Douglas Dub. We would all, and Brother Bird was fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic kid.
Yes, he was a very dynamic man.
Yeah. And he was one of the mainstays of the bowling league and everything. And all of this until his eyesight started to affect him a great deal.
It's a very special thing to hear the stories of the chapter, and you start to see the connections. We've been interviewing the charter members, and the more we talk to you all, the more we learn, the more we understand how we became and now are stapled as the super chapter. It's as we remember, it's 50 years now that we're coming on. And I'm sure as you guys got together, there was nothing in your mind that would think, well, we're just trying to come together as brothers and to have a place to meet and to keep fellowshipping, that would turn into hundreds of members in the chapter, up to 200 members active, actually the second largest chapter. So many accolades have come out of the chapter because of you all's unselfish desire to come together and to keep that principle of fellowship and brotherly love. But I want to bring a question that we weren't ready to ask, but I just want to ask it now because I think it would be very interesting to history. And that is, you were a dean, right? And from what I understand, you were actually the dean of the first line that came into Gamma Pi. Is that correct?
No.
Oh, okay. We always thought you were the first dean.
No. I was bossless
of Gamma Pi chapter.
Yeah, when the first line came in.
Okay.
And of course I selected the dean.
Okay.
And
the dean at that time was
Brother Calvin Martin.
Okay.
And that was during the time that we only had 2 pledges. The late Brother Jim Coleman
right.
Brother Melvin Graham.
Right.
Brother Graham now has dementia.
Which line was it that you were ordained for? Do you remember the line that you were ordained for?
I was deemed the pledges for a couple of lines. And the last one, the last line, we brought in, I don't know what line it was, what the number was, but we brought in brothers like Brother Warren Johnson.
Warren Johnson, right.
We brought in brother like Brother Thad White.
The Blind Boys. That's what we know them as. Thad White is the Blind Boys.
And so forth.
I remember that line. That was maybe 90,
80,
84, something like that. Yeah.
No, that was, I think it was.
It was before 88.
Yes. Yeah, it was, I think it was 83, 84.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a powerful thing. And the reason why I asked that question was because, there are a lot of history to Gamma Pi that the sons of Gamma Pi want to embrace. There are a lot of history that the community has experienced with Gamma Pi being in the community, as the community has experienced some of the great work that the charter members have started, and then it blossomed to a bigger part where many members, not only that were made in Gamma Pi, but those who joined the chapter, and now we call it the super chapter, where we've actually gone to 3 chapters of the year now. So it's been a very special moment, and Brother Dillard, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to ask these questions and to glean some of the history of Gamma Pi. I think the more we talk to the charter members and we begin to solidify this history that we have, the more the community can appreciate the contributions that Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated has done in the community. So on the behalf of a son of Gamma Pi, I thank you. I'm humbled to hear these stories. I'm humbled to learn of your history, not only as Omega Man, but personally, to be able to come into your home and to hear those things that made Omega important to you. And I thank you for that opportunity.
Well, I have enjoyed the session, and it's been my pleasure to sit and discuss it with you and so forth. And I got a ton of oracles right here, and I think they're on the ship. A lot of them are on the ship behind me. And I would be willing to pass them on to some of the brothers, and I'm talking about oracles from the 80s, 70s, and so forth. But I have 2 daughters, and the oldest one is a daddy's girl from heart. When little story on her, when she was small, my wife would come home. We'd come home in the afternoon. My wife would fix her food, give me the baby, and I would feed her. And I'd feed her. She'd just look up at me, and everything would go great, except her peas.
Right. Right.
And some of the great moments there when she got up a little size, when I come home on Friday, my wife told me, she said, you got to do the grocery shopping, you do the eating, you got to do the shopping. That's fine. And on Friday, I'd come home, I'd take the baby, and we'd go shopping. I'd sit in the basket. And we used to do most of my shopping at the Giant on Marlboro pipe. Old Marlboro pipe, I guess. And I'd sit in the basket and we'd go up and down the aisle. And people come in with the kids, you know. And when they go through the aisle, they be all over the floor and screaming. And my baby, she'd look at them and then she'd look at me. I didn't have any problem, per se, until, well, when I was shopping, the last thing I put in the basket would be the bread.
Right.
And I put the bread in, and as soon as I put the bread in, she wants to open the bread.
Right.
I said, no, babe, we can't, we got to pay for it first. And she shut up just peaceful. But as soon as I put in the car, I put her in the car, and as soon as we got in the car, she'd open that bread.
The stories that we can remember of our children.
Yes.
I can attest. I have my oldest daughter, my firstborn. I'm a father of 4, but I can feel the father's heart of your daughter. And it's great to have our children see the Omega experience and Omega life. And so we could be here all day talking about these stories of Omega. One of the things my wife always says, that when Omega men get together, you can forget it. They're going to be together talking stories until 2 in the morning. So I thank you, Brother Dillard Rowe. And again, my name is Anthony Kelly, and I am a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity by way of Gamma Pi Chapter. And this has been Gamma Pi Live, and we thank you for joining us to spend time talking to one of our 21 charter members.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. It's been great.